Hello, Opening Pathways viewers. This is Tom Lenoble. It's great to have you with me today. And I've got another exciting guest for you. Today we have Tom Charman from Blok. He's the co-founder there. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
So to get started, tell us a little bit about Blok and what sparked you to start that company.
For sure. So in essence, Blok is a simulator for product teams. So what we do is we help our customers predict how their customers are going to behave to a new experiment, to a product change they're thinking about making within their platform before they ever write a line of code. Honestly, the reason that we started building this is I've built a few companies in the past. Experimentation has always been incredibly painful when it comes to actually building products. And, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money from that perspective. But actually, I was also working in the defense industry where I was building models to predict human behavior, largely around radicalization. And what I began to see after a little while is all of the work that I was doing was very applicable to non-defense civilian tech. And I kind of said to myself, well, what is the world that I want to build? And for me, it was a world that is much more personalized. It's about giving people unique experiences and making sure that everyone has a happy experience when they're using a product. And I think a lot of the work that we were doing was leading us towards this path of actually being able to get towards that future of ultimate personalization, true personalization, adaptive user interfaces based on how different people act to different products. And that's really what starts on the journey.
Amazing, amazing. Tom, you and I talked about this earlier, and I reflected with you of all the times I've sat on those behind those two-way mirrors with people
Yeah.
watching what we're doing to try and assess how users are going to react. And I'm thrilled to know about your company. It's going to change everything for people doing, especially research on the UI. So tell me, I want to go back a little bit. You touched on a little bit to companies before this, but I want to go further back.
Yeah.
Most of us have some sort of role model in our life or somebody that started us early on some path that we're on. Who was yours?
May sound cliche, probably my mum. I think she was a psychiatrist. She is a psychiatrist. She's retired now, and she's someone that spent most of her life helping other people, understanding the human mind. I remember as a kid growing up, we'd have these conversations in the car about, are we moving towards a future of cyborgs, and how do we really understand the brain, and kind of some of these deep questions that I still don't have the answer to, unsurprisingly. And alongside all of that, she was also really into jewelry and making things. And I think the two things combined, along with some of the kind of, I used to build computers with my dad, but I think it's that seeing my mum working hard and helping other people, but also spending time building what she loves is really kind of what led me to decide that going down this path was the right path for me. And honestly, I think there's definitely been a few times my parents are like, I don't understand what you do, but I'm happy that you're doing it. And I think that's the kind of parent that I want to be when I grow up as well.
Yes, yes. It's great when parents empower us to do what we love and what we're good at, and even if they don't understand it, I love that. So tell me, since you started the company, did you ever doubt your vision?
Um, I think sometimes I wondered whether the vision was too big. I think even the kind of act one of what we're building is a big business in itself. And I think there's been times where I've said to myself, should we just focus on act one and not worry about act two and act three? But I think the speed at which San Francisco is moving, and the opportunities that are coming out are helping me realize that thinking big is genuinely the only way that you build a massive company that changes millions, if not billions, of people's lives.
Wonderful. So I want to talk a little bit about your leadership style. So let's delve into that a bit. Was there a pivotal experience that sort of brought and revealed your leadership style? How did it come about, and what is your leadership style?
I think it kind of comes down to the way that I grew up to some extent. If I'm honest, like I'm a big guy, I'm very aware of that, but I grew up as a kid that was bullied quite badly. And I think what I learned to do is become a chameleon and to just kind of like fix into different circumstances. And, I was very good at like just embedding myself in situations, hence kind of why I went into the defense world as well. And I think when I try and lead now, for me, there's a few things that I look out for. One is I'm really anti-toxic behavior. I try and call it out as soon as it happens. The kind of corporate culture that exists in a lot of companies is something that just shouldn't exist when we're building. But I think there's other things around empowering people to do what they love, as cliche as that sounds. But I think the other thing is basically, and maybe kind of almost counterintuitive to some of the things that I've said, where we, kind of want to be supportive and help people grow and succeed. I do kind of have this view of sink or swim. Often when we're hiring people, we will take a risk on someone. We don't really know whether they're going to go as we expect them to, but giving them the opportunity to just jump in and see whether they can achieve. My view is actions talk louder than words. And if you're successfully able to integrate yourself within the team and move quickly, that's all I need. That's all I care about. And from that perspective, that's the kind of leadership that I try and push onto other people is take the risk on people, give them an opportunity to perform. And when they perform, move forwards and let them achieve.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I found that sometimes we forget that the objective is just to get the work done. And sometimes getting out of the way and letting people do it and being open to their ideas can be the best thing we ever did. I
Yep.
couldn't agree with you more. Did you ever take a personal risk along this journey that no one knows about?
Oh, good question. I guess one of the personal risks would be just packing my bags and moving to San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's a big decision to make, and I think honestly, it's when we raised our pre-seed round, one of our early investors that came in made a decision very quickly on myself and my co-founder, and the reason that he made that bet was he basically said anyone that's prepared to just pack up their things and move away from a life that they're used to living in London, move over to San Francisco with no network, with no views, with very little expectation other than we're just going to work as hard as we can and make this work. I guess it's a risky bet. I mean, I think I always had the view that I could always go home if it didn't work out. But yeah, it's definitely the best decision I've ever made.
Yes, 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 yes. If somebody was watching you way back then and they were looking at you now, what would surprise them the most?
Oh, good question. Um, like I'm not going to say cliche things like, just ambition and things like that in the sense of like I don't think that would surprise people. I think maybe the thing that would surprise people is my stubbornness.
Uh,
I'm a pretty stubborn person, and I think that can be both good and bad as a leader. I think the good side of it is you will do everything you can to make something work in the way that you want it to work. There's also a negative side to that as well. So that's something that kind of I'm always acutely aware of. But I think I do a lot of inner thinking as well. And perhaps that's something that some of my close friends, they're the only ones that realize how much inner thinking that I actually do. And it's something that surprises a lot of people.
yeah, really good. How did you find your first customers? How did you get traction in the beginning?
So before we started building, we really wanted to work out whether there was actually a market for this. So we interviewed 100 product teams. We sat down with product leaders from around the world and said, I'm thinking about building this thing. Does it have legs? I think it has legs. I've experienced this problem, but do you think it has legs? And very quickly, we were able to build out a wait list of around 100 companies that wanted access to the platform. From there, we built out a very basic MVP that was honestly a demo that I threw together and thought to myself, well, I need to get something into their hands. And we used that to onboard our first customers. And from there, we've then obviously gone away and built out a full platform, built a team out, raised money, and obviously built the company to some extent.
Amazing. I hope you're making notes for the book. There'll be one. So tell me this. What did you learn in the early days about trust?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I've always been someone that is very trusting. I think I'm someone that you have to warm up to, in the sense of like I won't immediately trust you, but when I trust you, I'll throw everything I can at you. Um, so I think in the early days of trust, like I think again, it probably stems back to when I was a kid and had people that broke my trust and bullied me and stuff like that, which made me a little bit more defensive and put my walls up to some extent. But as I've got a little bit older, I'm spending a lot more time just I will take people at their word and see whether they perform as I expect them to. And assuming they do, like I don't have any issues with trusting people or once I've built that initial bridge with them.
Yes, yes, thank you. I'm interested to know, we live in this technology time and technology seems to be racing ahead and AI. I talked to a lot of CEOs and founders focused on AI, and I've been amazed at all the areas that we're looking at. And there's some controversy about it. You know what that is. I don't need to tell you. Everybody
Yeah.
knows. And I think it's a reality. And I've shared on
Yeah.
this podcast before. I remember watching the first fax and thinking it was magic. And then we had email and we thought that was the best thing. And now we want to get as far away from it as we can, right? Well, here comes AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm interested to know your thoughts as if you built this company and others, how you balance the need for innovation to keep up with the technology with, keeping the lights on, sustainability. Tell us about that.
I think there's a whole view and path that you can go down, particularly with like innovation. Like being in San Francisco, it's obviously one of the most innovative places in the world. There's a lot of people building incredible technology, but not building businesses. So I think one of the big things for us was how do we make revenue from day one? We thought a lot about that, and we wanted to make sure that we built something that was innovative, but we've perhaps taken an approach that's different to your average foundational model lab, your Anthropics, your OpenAIs, where they raised huge amounts of money and then built out models and then released those models to the public. And in theory, they will cover the costs and return many, many times more than they initially raised. We've taken a slightly different approach where we're working directly with our customers to prove value from day one. And we're taking the learnings from our customers to build out our own technology at the same time. So I call it the European way when I speak to people, because I think it's that kind of, you can't raise the same level of capital often as you can here in the US. And that European way has meant that we've stayed as close to our customers as possible. I reckon I speak to at least 2 to 3 potential customers per day. And I try and speak to all of our customers at least once per week. But from that perspective, it's a case of, by staying as close to our customers as possible, you're actually getting, in my opinion, a truer level of innovation, because it's not build something and people will come. It's let's build something that actually people care
Yeah,
about and get value from. That's the most important thing.
I love this. You're using your own methodology to find out what you need. You're doing your own research and building from there. Yeah,
Exactly.
brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
So tell me this, when the stakes are high, how does Tom make decisions?
Um, with my co-founder always, I think her background is very much product. My background is more technology. So if there's a question that I have that she's more excelled at, I will let her be the lead on that. I think there's definitely an element of empowering the team to make decisions as the experts in the room. The big thing for me is every time I hire someone, I want to hire someone that's smarter than myself, so that I know that if I needed them to make a decision for me, they would be able to make that decision. When it comes down to me, high stakes decisions, I think I often take a little bit of time to reflect. I normally have an answer in my head already, but I think earlier in my career, I would be quick to tell you this is what I would do, and make the decision very quickly. I think having been around the block a little while now, I will now spend a little bit of time reflecting on it, particularly if it's a decision that I'm emotional about. If it's something that makes me emotional, then I will definitely take some time to work out and think to myself, is this the right decision that I'm making? And in some cases, do I need to bounce it by a friend, one of our angel investors, someone that's supportive of what we're building, to make sure that we're making the right decision and not jumping the gun?
Yes, yes. How do you decide when to pivot or push through?
This is the stubbornness question. And this is definitely something where, like, I would say I'm more stubborn than is good for me sometimes. Um, Honestly, in the past, I think we've made a decision where we've pivoted too quickly. I also think we've been in the past, in the past, I've made decisions where I've made a mistake by not pivoting fast enough. So I think for now, the way in which I'm trying to allow this to happen is based on my customers. If our customers are saying, I don't like this, or if my customers are saying, I'm not prepared to pay for this, whatever these things are, once I've heard it enough times, it's then about sitting down with the team and saying, this is something that we're hearing regularly. We need to make a decision. We need to change something, or we need to refine something, because it's going to be a blocker in the near future if we don't. So I definitely lean on, I guess, kind of a crowd vote from the customers to tell me whether I'm making the right decision or not. But often, more often than not, my gut is also telling me what I think the right answer is as well. And I think one of the things I've also learned, having been around the block for a little while, is trust your gut, because frankly, it's a better brain than your brain sometimes.
Often, I agree with you.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that. So tell me, I don't know about you, but I've made some of my biggest mistakes have been my biggest teachers and led to some of my biggest successes. What about you? Have you had a mistake that ever taught you something that led to a success?
Many. I'm trying to think of ones that come to the top of my head. Honestly, many mistakes have taught me. I think it's the thing that I often lean on is I've been successful with a couple of companies in the past where, I've ended up with a positive outcome from them. Those are the companies where I can honestly say I think I learned the least. I got lucky. I built something. It was what the market needed, and it led to an exit. That was the kind of the honest truth with often with those companies. The companies that haven't worked out or have been a struggle, I have learned far more about what I should be doing and how I should be operating, both as a leader, but how we should be operating as a company, than I ever could have done with those other companies. So I think honestly, the biggest thing is about customer feedback. The reason that I am so focused on speaking to our customers as much as possible is because we didn't do it enough in previous companies. And we often let ourselves as a team make decisions, and it pushed us down the wrong path. And it didn't work out for us. So we always said, to myself and my co-founder, we always said, when we build the next company together, we'll make sure that we're talking to our customers more. And
Yeah.
look, you can't always listen to them. They don't always know what they want. So there is an element of like trusting your gut. But 9 times out of 10, if you speak to 5 customers and 4 of them have said the same thing, the writing's on the wall.
Yes, there's something there anyway.
Yeah.
There's something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So I want to know, please, Tom, what are you most proud of? And I'm interested about it personally, not professionally.
The immediate thing that comes, I thought about that for a second, and I thought, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Because that's honestly the best thing. I think as far away from kind of building companies as it is, when I turned eight, I've always been very passionate about homelessness. It's
Mm,
something that when I was at university, I would sit down with. I would try and sit down with at least one homeless person per week and play a game of chess with them, or take them out to dinner, do something to hear their stories. Because frankly, one of the things I've learned is you're much closer to homelessness than you think.
yeah.
Some of these people that end up homeless, I mean, no one plans to do it, but some of them are a lot closer to your everyday person than you think. So I think when I turned 18, I used to run track for my county. I've always been a big guy, which has always been funny on the start line when you see the mums turn up with their kids who are runner beans, and then there's me who's like a big kind of bulky guy ready to run off the start line as well, and often comes through the finish line before them as well, which is always a sight for sore eyes for the parents. But
Love it.
when I when I turned 18, I decided I would run the marathon to raise money for homelessness, for shelter. And it was something that was a little bit stupid, and comes back to my stubbornness again, where I did absolutely no training for it. Turned up to the start line dressed up in a morph suit with a Santa costume on top, and ran 26.2 miles to raise money for homelessness. And that's
Amazing.
something that I've always been, proud of.
Amazing, Tom. Yes, I think that whatever it is that we want to do, find a way to serve others.
Yeah.
Those of us, especially that have done well, I think we have a responsibility to give back. I know it's a passion of mine. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to know, please, how do you define success beyond the metrics?
Personally, it's about my ability to give back. I think, I don't have an answer to this, and I spend a lot of time thinking about it, but having given that I'm kind of so into homelessness, like solving the problem around homelessness, and I think it links to my mum being a psychiatrist. She works heavily with patients suffering with mental health problems who often ended up homeless. There's kind of like a running theme from that perspective. So I think for me, like, measuring success is there a world where I can solve some of the primary causes of homelessness? Is there something that I can do to make it more possible for people that are on the streets to find shelter? It might be by solving alcoholism, or it might be about solving the fentanyl crisis, whatever it looks like. I mean, the fentanyl crisis is less prevalent in Europe than it is in the US, but obviously it's still huge. So I think for me, like, on a personal level, it's about being able to give back and solve some of these core problems that I've always wanted to solve. From a business perspective, I think it's about how many lives we've impacted for the better. So the big goal is, what we're building here is a product that allows people to get more personalized experiences. Now, there are a huge number of benefits that come from that, but one immediate benefit where you can see the immediate impact is accessibility. There was a time where I was leaving a steak restaurant with my dad, and we'd both booked an Uber, and for me, it was like I grabbed the Uber, pressed the button, ordered the Uber, off we go. He struggled a little bit because he doesn't use Uber very often, and doesn't use apps as much. And for me, it was, how do I give him a more personalized experience that makes it easy for him to book a product while still giving me that same experience or some sort of personalized experience that I'm used to seeing as well. And I think the benefit that you can have from an accessibility perspective in this market is huge.
Wow, wow. What values are non-negotiable in your organization?
Trust, candidness, which sharing candidness, I guess, to some extent falls to openness. I think trust is a given. Everyone needs to be able to trust one another. And as soon as that feels like that isn't happening, then you fall on the second value, which is around like openness and candidness, to be able to have the conversation to understand why that trust is being broken. I think determination and kind of like problem solving ability is another one, like the ability to kind of like just get on with something and work out the answer to it. But I think the other one that's coming through quite quickly at the moment, where I'm spending more time thinking about how it falls as a value, is the ability to ask good questions. I think one of the things that we're seeing in San Francisco with this bloodbath towards hiring research engineers is, at least my take, is one of the reasons they're being paid so much is they know how to ask very good questions. You can't train someone to ask good questions. It comes with their exposure to the world.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that, as we hire as a team, when we bring people in, we're looking for diversified thinking, and we're looking for people that can ask good questions.
Interesting. A lot of wisdom being shared here today, folks. Tell me, Tom, how do you navigate pushback, whether it be from within or without or outside the company? How do you navigate pushback?
um, I would lean on the kind of candidness conversation, in the sense of being it's about getting to the bottom of where that pushback comes from. I think a lot of the time there will be a reason as to why someone is of the views that they have, and if you can distill down to what that reason is, often you can find a way to mediate and move forwards. So I would say it's about sitting down with someone, having the conversation, trying to work out what the real problem is, and then using that to move forwards and work out what the solution looks like.
Mhm. What value do you personally protect most when no one's watching?
Um, I don't know if this is a value, but like one thing that I do spend a lot of my time protecting is my mental health. And it's about having moments where I can switch off. I think it's super important because it's an opportunity. Like, one of the things I've noticed since moving to San Francisco, and it often finds it like forms within younger founders, is everyone is working so hard to just
Yes.
grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. They're not taking enough time to think for their own mental health. Even a walk will suddenly become an event where there has to be 150 people there, and you have to network. And it's actually just taking some time for yourself to think more kind of creatively is not just going to be incredibly powerful for your mental health and for your ability to operate. It's also incredibly important for the business, because creativity is something that is what most, like, the best companies have in droves, is a huge amount of creativity.
It's so important. I talk to people, to clients really, and it's exactly what you're saying. They're a near burnout. And
Yeah.
you discuss with them and ask them something as simple as, when did you step outside and take a walk?
Yeah.
When was the last time you spent some time with a friend? Or when was the last time you spent some time with yourself?
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people think that that is like some sort of luxury. And I think you and I think alike, that it's a requirement, not a
Yeah.
luxury. Um,
100%.
yes, yes. How do you balance being a leader with being a learner?
Um, So I think there's a few things as a team. We have like in our Slack channels, we have like research channels where people can share papers that they found. We've got obviously our research engineers who are far more specialized in what they do than I will ever be. And I spend time to learn from those people. I spend time sitting down with them, understanding the way that they're thinking. So I think there's definitely a culture within the team of knowledge sharing. Perhaps that's like another value that I didn't mention is making sure that we're all collectively learning together. So one of the things I've recently implemented is as part of our all hands on a Monday morning, it's having one person within the team that's sharing something that they've recently been building over the last week. It gives people an opportunity to learn from other people within the organization.
Yes.
Um, I'd say like outside of that, some of the times where I'm like having my downtime, I will often be immersing myself in what's going on in the world, in learning from different situations. And it can be anything from kind of the latest breakthroughs in technology right the way through to, I studied, was one of my majors politics at university. So I'm always fairly caught up with what's going on in the world as well. And I think that's an incredible way to learn as well, because learning about other people's cultures, the way they operate, the way they behave, that's going to give you a good way to understand, again, the human mind, which is to some extent what we're trying to solve with this business.
Yeah, it's fascinating too. I think I love when I travel
Yeah,
to get with local people, eat local food, and
exactly.
find out. I end up always realizing how much we're alike than we are different, but I
Yeah.
love learning about people's different cultures. So tell me, what is your boldest vision for Block in the next 5 years?
So I think for us, right now we're helping product teams predict how their customers are going to behave to different user interfaces, to different products, to different changes they're thinking about making. Everything that we're doing today is alluding towards a future where we're building out adaptive user interfaces. So it's getting to the point where we're building our own internal models that are better at understanding human behavior than any other model out there. And that understanding of human behavior then puts us in a position where we can sell to companies like, say, Uber and say, well, you have a product manager that is currently managing multiple different types of customers, but the same user interface. Give us the ability to begin to build out different versions of product for different types of people. So the example that I tend to give alongside of the Uber one with my dad is I hate voice notes on WhatsApp. Can't stand them, never have liked them. Love the fact that WhatsApp has now transcribed every voice note that gets sent to me, so that I can then write an answer to it. Equally, my friends in South America love voice notes. So when I send them a text message, I often get some sort of sarky message back that's like, why can't you just send a voice note? I want to see a world that we can help empower where when I send when I send a text message to a friend in South America, it gets transformed into a voice note. And when they send me a voice note, it gets transformed into a text message right the way through across every product in other mediums and other forms. That's the world that I see being built now.
I love this, where we all get what we want.
Exactly.
Yeah, we all get what we
Yeah.
want. So tell me, when things get tough, how does Tom keep himself inspired?
I think exercise is a big way for me. It's an opportunity for me to take a step back. It's a way for me to just kind of like when things get tough, I can take my frustration out on the weights, which is quite nice for me. Um, I think that's always been a big one for me. Like even before I moved over to San Francisco, the bigger one that I've begun to see, and I haven't had enough chance to really expose myself to it yet because I haven't been here so long, is being able to go to places like Point Reyes or to Yosemite, to places where I'm trying to think of. So we were in Tahoe not that long ago, and it's just driving through. There's these moments where you're kind of like things are tough and things are like scary, frustrating, whatever. The world could not care less. Like the world could not care less about me and my problems. And being able to go and expose myself to some of these incredible viewpoints helps me realize that the problems that I have going on in my head are miniature in comparison to all of the other problems that are going on around the world.
Yeah, I want to encourage you to go to Point Reyes soon.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, no,
so
100%.
special. I really want to encourage you to do it. It's really a special place. There's some beaches there that are so pristine that you can see as you're driving that are literally untouched, and we don't
Yeah,
get to see things that are untouched too much anymore. So it's really, really
100%.
it is quite inspiring. So tell me, what is what's your biggest hope for the world right now?
Um, it's a good question. As cynical as it sounds, that we don't blow ourselves up.
Yes.
I think there is a genuine concern that I've had in. I mean, I'm putting on my politics hat for a second now, and I try not to do that too much publicly. But like, there's a world where we are all becoming fairly polarized, both left and right. Um, and this polarization is often what precludes a war. If you look at history, and I hope that that doesn't happen. I mean, there already are wars going on around the world, as we both know, but I hope that that doesn't escalate into a bigger war. And I
Yeah.
think if this is particularly timing given the conversations that were being had yesterday. So I think it's a it's probably one of the things I think about the most. I don't have an answer on to like how to de-escalate some of these situations, but I think there is social media has a lot they take a lot of the blame for it in the sense of like we've been forced down into our echo chambers and
Mm.
forced down these rabbit holes where I had given my background have spent a lot of time on say YouTube where I will spend a lot of time watching video content. And if you want to have fun, maybe not fun, but if you want to have fun for the day, if you go onto YouTube and watch a few gaming videos, I guarantee you, if you start at 9 a.m., by 8 p.m., you're going to be watching very, very radical right wing videos because it forces you down a particular rabbit hole. And that's kind of, we need to do better. That's not the way that we thrive as humans.
Yes, yes. Whatever your flavor, we could use a little unity right now. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
if your younger self were to watch this podcast, what would you tell him?
Um, don't listen to other people. I think is probably a big one. Like you do you, as cliche as that may or may not sound. Like um, you do you. Focus on the things that you care deeply about, and uh, this one is cliche, but don't give up. I think there's definitely been times in my career where it's been incredibly difficult. The pandemic for one of my previous companies was very difficult, and I will never forget having to lay off my team virtually because I couldn't sit with them in person because we were in the hospitality business. And that's kind of one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. The next thing I did everything I could to make sure that we could find them jobs, but it's things like that are it's easy to just say I'm going to take the easy way out and I'm going to go and get a corporate job. But I think for me it was continuing to push through is what's led me to get to San Francisco. And not that San Francisco is the end goal, but it's something that I've always wanted to do.
Yes.
And I've now got that opportunity to do it, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I don't throw that away.
Yeah, well, we're glad you're here.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
so tell me, one final question for you. Somebody's going to watch this, and it's going to be somebody that's an emerging founder or somebody that's thinking about starting a business or leading at a high level. What piece of advice would you give them?
Speak to customers. I know it's just people don't do it enough. They get excited about an idea and they'll go and build the idea and hope that people come. But the best decision we made with this company was sitting down and really speaking to as many people as possible. Because frankly, when we started this, the business that we're building today is fundamentally different to the business that we built
Yes.
when we started. So speak to customers and make sure that people really want what you're building, particularly in a world where building is getting easier and easier.
Yeah, you're singing from my songbook. Where I used to do this thing in large customer service centers. I'd invite executives in and didn't tell them, but I'd get them on the phone. It was the best thing to get them to
Yeah,
talk to customers because they always walked away. One, how hard it was, and
yeah,
two, it was so much fun to see the customer's reaction, but it created a different level of understanding of the voice of the customer and how
yeah,
important it is. Tom Charman,
100%.
it's been a delight having you on Opening Pathways today. Tom Charman, co-founder at Blok. Tell us where we can find you and a little bit again about your company, Tom.
For sure. Best place to find me personally, probably LinkedIn. It's probably the only social platform I use now with a little bit of X, just because San Francisco has always had a lot of Twitter X, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's probably the best place to find me. In regards to the company, joinblok.co. So join Blok, BLOK, not BLOCK.co. And yeah, as I say, the goal for us is to build the the best product experiences for customers to make it as easy as possible for people to have the most delightful experience when they're using products. And Act One for us is by helping product teams simulate out and predict how their customers are going to behave before they have to write a line of code.
Wonderful. Tom Charman, thank you for being on Opening
Thank you.
Pathways today. And to my viewers, I'll see you next time.